On New Year's Eve, my daughter-in-law handed me a name badge. It read Observer. Her parents laughed out loud. My son smirked and said, "Food is for family." There was no chair for me, as if I were the help. That was the moment I decided not one more second. Real quick comment below and let me know where you're watching from. I need to know this story is reaching people who understand what it's like to be invisible in your own life. The security guard at the front desk didn't recognize me. I stood there in the lobby of my son's company, the company I'd funded with every dollar I had, while a kid young enough to be my grandson scrolled through his tablet, frowning at the guest list. The glass walls around us reflected the party already in full swing on the third floor. Champagne, laughter, the hum of success I'd paid for. "Name again, sir." "Thomas Mitchell." I kept my voice level, patient, the way you do when you've spent 40 years as an engineer solving problems that required precision, not emotion. He scrolled, frowned deeper. "I'm showing you on the list, but let me call upstairs." I waited. Through the glass elevator shaft, I could see people moving on the third floor. Suits and cocktail dresses. A banner that read, "Tech Fund Solutions, celebrating 5 years of innovation." 5 years. That's how long it had been since I'd written the check that made all of this possible. The guard hung up his phone. "Someone's coming down with your credentials, Mr. Mitchell." Not my son. That would have been too much to ask on New Year's Eve. A young woman emerged from the elevator, early 20s, probably an intern wearing a lanyard that said event staff. She walked toward me with the kind of apologetic smile people use when they're delivering bad news on someone else's behalf. "Mr. Mitchell. Hi, I'm Kayla. Brian asked me to bring this down." She held out a plastic badge on a cheap lanyard, not the elegant ones I'd seen on the VCs in the photographs Brian posted. Just a plain white rectangle with black text. Observer. I stared at it. The word sat there clinical and cold. Observer. Not founder, not investor, not even guest of honor. "Brian apologizes he couldn't come down himself," Kayla continued. "Jessica wanted me to make sure you got checked in. The party's already started upstairs." Jessica, my daughter-in-law, the woman who'd been reshaping my son's life and mine for the past 5 years. I took the badge, clipped it to my jacket. "Thank you, Kayla." The third floor opened into an open-concept office transformed for the evening. String lights, ice sculptures, waiters in bow ties carrying trays of hors d'oeuvres that probably cost more per bite than the lunches I used to pack. 150 people celebrating. I found the seating chart on an easel near the entrance. Elegant calligraphy on cream cardstock. Founding team table. Brian Mitchell, Jessica Brown, Mitchell, Marcus Smith, Sarah Jenkins, David Reed, Amanda Foster. My eyes scanned down past the board members, past the senior staff, all the way to the bottom. General guests, standing reception area. Thomas Mitchell. I pulled out my phone and took a picture. Evidence. The engineer in me still kept records. Across the room, a stage had been set up near the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the San Francisco skyline. My son stood there in a tailored suit, microphone in hand. Jessica beside him, radiant in a dress that probably cost what I used to make in a month. "Thank you all for being here tonight." Brian's voice boomed through the speakers. 5 years ago, Tech Fund Solutions was just an idea, a dream that most people said would never work. We built this company from nothing. With my wife's vision, our incredible team, and the trust of investors who believed in us when no one else would. From nothing. I looked down at the plastic champagne cup a waiter had handed me. At the founding team table 15 feet away, crystal flutes caught the light. To 5 years of growth, Brian continued raising his glass, and to the Series A funding that's going to take us to the next level. Happy New Year, everyone. The room erupted in applause. Crystal glasses clinked. I set my plastic cup down, pulled out my phone. 5 years of messages with Brian. I scrolled backward through the gradual cooling of his words, through the increasing spaces between responses, all the way back to the very first message. The message that started everything. 5 years ago, my son called me at 2 a.m. He was crying. I'd been awake already. Sleep hadn't come easy since Susan died 6 months earlier. The house in Portland felt too big, with just me in it, 40 years of marriage, echoing in empty rooms, her reading glasses still on the nightstand. When my phone lit up with Brian's name, my first thought was accident. A hospital. The kind of call every parent dreads. Dad, his voice cracked. I don't know what to do. What happened? Are you hurt? Everything's falling apart. Jessica's pregnant. We got an eviction notice. I pitched the startup to 12 investors, and they all said no. I've got nothing. No job, no prospects, no way to take care of my family. I walked to the window. Portland at 2 in the morning, quiet streets, rain on glass. You're not a failure, Brian. I've got a plan, Dad. A real one. The technology works. I just need capital to prove it. But no one will take a chance on me? I pressed my hand against the cold window, thought of Susan. Family takes care of family, she used to tell the kids. We show up for each other no matter what. How much do you need? Brian went quiet. Then $850,000. That's what I need to get this off the ground. But Dad, that's your retirement. I can't. Let me think about it. I hung up. Stood there in the dark living room. Our living room. The couch Susan picked out. The bookshelf we built together. Photos of Brian and Emily as kids, gap-toothed and sunburned from camping trips to Crater Lake. I walked through the house. Kitchen where Susan taught the kids to make pancakes. The garage workshop where I'd spent Saturdays fixing things, Susan bringing me coffee. This house held everything we'd built. But Susan was gone. Emily had her own life in Seattle, and Brian was drowning. By sunrise, I'd made my decision. I called my realtor first. I need to sell the house. Then my financial advisor. I'm taking early withdrawal from my 401k. I know there's penalties. I don't care. Emily called that afternoon worried. Dad, that's everything you and Mom saved. My future is making sure my children have one. 2 weeks later, I sat across from Brian and Jessica in their cramped Mission District apartment. Cardboard boxes in corners. A crib in pieces against the wall. I slid the papers across their scratched coffee table. $850,000. $570 from the house sale, $280 from retirement. I take 40% equity. My name goes on the founding documents as co-founder. Brian stared at the papers, then at me. Dad, I can't. You're not letting me do anything. This is an investment. We're partners. He stood up, came around the table, hugged me hard. I'll never forget this, he said, voice breaking. I swear, Dad, I'll never forget what you're doing for me. Jessica stood too, extended her hand across the table. Firm grip, professional. Her eyes scanned the number on the paper 850000 before they found Brian's face. I should have noticed that. The way she looked at the money first. The way her handshake felt less like gratitude and more like closing a deal. But I was watching my son, watching him wipe tears from his eyes, watching him believe in himself again. I thought I was saving him. Thought I was doing what Susan would have wanted. I didn't know I was buying my way out of my own son's life. The first year I was part of something, or at least I thought I was. Those early meetings in the cramped Soma office, 6 desks, whiteboards covering every wall, burnt coffee and ambition. I showed up twice a week, offered my perspective. 40 years of engineering experience solving problems 20-somethings hadn't encountered yet. Dad's insights are invaluable. Brian told the team after I'd suggested a workaround for a scaling issue. The developers nodded, took notes, made me feel like I belonged. I should have known better. Should have seen the shelf life on being needed. By month 3, I'd sold the Portland house. Got less than market value needed to close fast. I moved into a studio apartment in Oakland. 400 square feet. A Murphy bed. A kitchenette with 2 burners. To be closer, I told Emily when she video called from Seattle, concern filling her face. The company needs me nearby. Does he? She asked it gently. Dad, you sold Mom's home. For a startup that might not make it. It'll make it. I'll make sure it does. She sighed. Just be careful. I love Brian, but Jessica. Something about her feels off. She's ambitious. That's not a bad thing. If you say so. The doubt in her voice was clear. By month 8, meeting invitations came later. Or not at all. Jessica scheduled strategy sessions Tuesday mornings when she knew I volunteered at the Veterans Center. Then she'd email me afterward with bullet point summaries. Quick updates. No context. Just keeping you in the loop, Thomas. She'd write. Never Tom. Always formal. Always distant. I mentioned it to Brian once, over coffee near his apartment. Dad, Jessica's trying to keep things efficient. We can't have everyone in every meeting, That's not how startups scale. I'm not everyone. I'm a co-founder. You're an investor. The words came out fast, automatic, like he'd practiced them. Brian, my name is on the founding documents. Right, of course. I just meant, look, you've got to let us run the company. Trust us. I dropped it. Told myself he was stressed. Growing pains. By month 12, the company threw a holiday party. Modest. Catered food. Beer and wine. 30 employees now, all young and excited. Jessica worked the room like a politician. I watched her introduce people to Brian. This is Brian Mitchell, our founder and CEO. Then the others. Amanda, VP of Product. David, our CTO. When someone asked who I was, Jessica smiled. This is Thomas, Brian's father. Early investor. Very supportive. Not co-founder. Not partner. Just Brian's father. Later, getting my coat from the back office, I heard Jessica on her phone through the door. No, it's working out well. The silent partner situation, I mean. He funded everything but doesn't interfere with operations. Best of both worlds. Silent partner. I stood there, coat in my hands. Those two words echoing. I'd never agreed to be silent. Never signed away my voice. But somewhere between the paperwork and the first board meeting I wasn't invited to, that's what I'd become. For 2 more years, I told myself it would improve. That once the company stabilized, once the pressure eased, Brian would remember I was more than a checkbook. Emily kept calling, asking if I was okay. I'm fine, I'd say. Everything's fine. I was lying. I found the documents by accident. Or maybe Jessica wanted me to find them. It was April. 8 months before this New Year's Eve party. 8 months before I'd have to make a choice. I'd driven up to visit the grandkids at Brian and Jessica's condo in Noe Valley. Saturday afternoon. Brian was at the office, always at the office now, and Jessica had texted asking if I could watch the kids while she ran errands. The boys were 4 and 6. Good kids. We built a tower out of blocks in the living room while cartoons played. When the younger ones spilled juice on the rug, I went to the kitchen for paper towels. That's when I saw it. Jessica's laptop open on the counter, screen still lit. She must have left in a hurry. I wasn't trying to snoop, but my eyes caught the document title. Series, A Dilution Strategy. Confidential. My name was in the first paragraph. I set down the paper towels, looked toward the living room. The kids were laughing. I glanced back and started reading. Tech Fund Solutions would raise $5 million in Series A funding. To accommodate the new investors, the company would issue new shares. Standard practice. But the dilution wasn't standard. Brian and Jessica's stake would drop from 60% to 48%. They'd still control the company. My 40% would drop to 12%. At the bottom, a section labeled Minority Buyout Option. They'd offer to purchase my remaining 12% for $180,000. I'd given them $850,000. 4 years later, they wanted to buy me out for $180,000. I pulled out my phone, took a photo of the screen, then another of the next page. Series A closing scheduled for January. The New Year's Eve party was the announcement. I heard Jessica's car in the driveway. I moved fast, wiped the juice stain, closed the laptop gently. By the time Jessica walked through the door with grocery bags, I was on the floor with the kids building another tower. How were they? She asked. Perfect. We had a good time. She smiled. Thanks, Thomas. I left 20 minutes later. The drive back to Oakland took 40 minutes. I didn't turn on the radio. Didn't think about anything except that number. 12%. 180. Back in my studio, I sat on the Murphy bed and called Emily. Dad, what's wrong? I told her. Explained the document, the dilution, the buyout offer. Dad, that's theft, she said after a long moment. It's legal theft. Bullshit. You gave them everything. There has to be something in the founding agreement. Protections. I'd have to check. Then check. And Dad, call a lawyer. I'm texting you a name right now. Robert Williams. He specializes in startup equity disputes. Emily, call him Monday. Promise me. I promise. After we hung up, I walked to the closet, pulled out the gray filing cabinet I'd moved from Portland. Susan used to tease me about keeping everything, every receipt, every manual for appliances we didn't own anymore. You never know when you'll need something, I'd tell her. I opened the top drawer. Inside were hanging files, labeled and organized by date. Every document from Tech Fund Solutions. The original term sheet, the operating agreement, Every email, every text about money strategy decisions. I'd spent decades in precision work. You build something, you keep the blueprints, track every measurement, every specification. Because one day you might need to know exactly where the weak points are. I didn't confront Brian. Not yet. There was a time for reaction and a time for strategy. This wasn't the moment to show my hand. I knew how things were built, which meant I knew how to take them apart piece by piece methodically until nothing could be salvaged. I became what Jessica wanted: silent, watching, waiting. June rolled around. I still showed up at the office once a week. Tuesdays, walked through the space that had grown from 6 desks to 40. New faces everywhere. None of them knew who I was. I'd sit in the corner near the coffee maker, pretend to work. Really, I was just there, present, refusing to disappear. One Tuesday, I overheard Jessica talking to a new hire by the printer. "Who's that?" the kid asked, nodding toward me. Jessica glanced over, smiled. "Oh, that's Thomas, Brian's dad. He likes to feel involved." Sweet, really? I kept my eyes on my screen, but I pulled out my phone and made a note. June 14th. Jessica tells employee I like to feel involved. Condescending. Dismissive. Documentation. That's what Robert Williams had told me. Document everything, dates, times, witnesses, build the case brick by brick. August brought the company summer party. A rented space in Mission Bay. Catered barbecue, kegs of craft beer. I found out about it the day before when Emily called. Brian's summer party. He posted about it. I checked my email. Nothing. Found the invitation on Slack, buried in a channel I didn't follow. Posted 3 weeks earlier. I showed up anyway. Stood near the food table. Watched the team play cornhole and laugh at inside jokes I didn't understand. Picnic tables under a tent. Every seat taken. I ate my burger standing. Jessica saw me. Waved. Didn't come over. Brian saw me too. "Dad didn't know you were coming." It was on Slack. "Oh, right. Well, glad you made it." He squeezed my shoulder. Moved on. I stayed an hour. Took photos on my phone. The crowd. The tables with no space for me. Then I left. September, I met Robert Williams at a coffee shop in Jack London Square. Once a month, we'd go over everything. He'd take notes. Ask questions. Nod at my folders. "Your documentation is excellent," he said during our 3rd meeting. "The founding agreement has clauses they're violating. Exclusion from material decisions. You have leverage. When do we use it? When they make their move? They'll announce the Series A at some point. Make a big show of it. That's when you act. Let them commit fully before you pull the thread. And if they try to close before I respond, they can't. Not without your signature as a 40% shareholder. They need you even if they've forgotten that." I drove home feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Not hope, but clarity. November, Brian called, awkward, halting. "Hey, Dad, about New Year's Eve. We're doing this company party. Pretty formal. Mostly investors and leadership. You'll get an invitation, but I wanted to give you a heads up. It's kind of a big deal." Sounds nice. "Yeah, so just so you're not surprised by the vibe, it's corporate, professional. I understand. I'll be there." "Cool, okay, good." He sounded relieved. "See you then." The invitation came 2 weeks later. Not from Brian, from Jessica's assistant. A mass email to 75 recipients. Subject: Tech Fund Solutions. New Year's Eve celebration, general admission. General admission, like a concert ticket. Like I was buying a seat to watch my own son's success, from the cheap seats. I sat in my studio that night, looked at my reflection in the dark window. 68 years old, living in 400 square feet, invisible to the company I'd created, but not powerless. On the wall behind me, I'd pinned a timeline. Every document, every slight, every broken promise. A web of evidence. Thomas Williams's words echoed. "When they make their move at New Year's, you make yours." I opened my laptop. Found the draft email Williams and I had been working on for 3 months. Read it through one more time. 8 more weeks until New Year's Eve. 8 more weeks until they'd learn what happens when you make an engineer invisible. I arrived at 10 p.m., 2 hours early. I wanted to see how they'd built my erasure. I'd lived this night 100 times in my head. But now I was seeing it through different eyes, not as a hurt father, but as an engineer about to dismantle a machine. The 3rd floor office was empty. just caterers adjusting centerpieces. Floor-to-ceiling windows reflected the San Francisco skyline. String lights cast everything in gold. I walked slowly through the room, let myself notice things I'd tried not to see. The company name on the wall, Tech Fund Solutions, in brushed metal letters. I'd suggested that name 4 years ago. Now it belonged to them. The product display near the entrance. The pivot that made it work had come from my conversation with Brian about user retention, drawn on a napkin at a diner. Now their success story. My money had bought it all. But my name appeared nowhere. I pulled out my phone, took photos, then walked to the seating chart. Founding team table. Brian, Jessica, the VCs. 10 seats. Crystal glasses already poured. General guests. Standing reception. My name buried among 40 others. I photographed it twice. Evidence. People arrived around 11. VCs first, then executives, employees. Everyone dressed for a wedding. I stayed near the windows, watched them not see me. At 11:30, Brian took the stage. "Thank you all for being here," he said. 5 years ago, Tech Fund Solutions was just an idea, a dream most people said would never work. We built this company from nothing, from a vision my wife believed in, from the dedication of this incredible team, from the trust of investors who saw what we could become. From nothing. I looked at my plastic cup. At the founding team table, crystal flutes caught the light. "To everyone who made this possible," Brian continued, "to our team, our investors, our partners, to 5 years of growth, and to the Series A funding that's going to take us to the next level. We couldn't have done this without you." Applause. Champagne corks. Laughter. I set my cup down, pulled out my phone, opened my email drafts. "Excuse me." Jessica stood there, champagne flute in hand, professional smile. "Thomas, could you help with the champagne tower? We need someone tall to reach the top tier." She said it the way you'd ask a hotel employee for extra towels. I looked past her at the staging area, at the tower of glasses, at staff in black vests waiting. "Actually," I said, "I'm about to send an important email. You'll want to read it." Her smile faltered. "What?" The DJ's voice boomed. "Ladies and gentlemen, 10 minutes from midnight." The crowd shifted toward the bar. I unlocked my phone, found the email draft, the one Thomas Williams and I had perfected over 3 months. Subject: Founder Rights Activation and Equity Protection Notice. Recipients: Brian, Jessica, all board members, all 3 VCs, company attorney, CC Robert Williams, Esquire. My thumb hovered over send. 10 minutes until midnight. 10 minutes until they'd announce their Series A and erase me completely. Jessica still stood there, confusion replacing her smile. "Thomas what? Email." Across the room, Brian laughed with Marcus Smith, playing Successful Founder. The DJ started countdown music. 9 minutes, everyone! My thumb moved to the send button. I sent the email at 11:59 and 47 p.m., 13 seconds before the new year. My thumb pressed send. The message disappeared from drafts, shot into inboxes across the room. The countdown reached 0. Happy New Year! Confetti cannons erupted. Champagne bottles popped. People threw their arms around each other. The room exploded with celebration. I stood by the windows, watched phones light up in pockets, in purses, on the bar. Marcus Smith pulled his phone out first, frowned at the screen, started reading. Sarah Jenkins checked hers next. Her smile faded. Then David Reed, then the company attorney whose face went pale. Brian was still celebrating, shaking hands. His phone was on the founding team table, buzzing. Jessica saw it first, picked it up, read. Her face changed. She grabbed Brian's arm, thrust the phone at him. He read. His hand started shaking. The email was simple. Thomas Williams and I had stripped it to legal essentials. Subject: Founder Rights Activation and Equity Protection Notice. The body laid out everything. Activation of founder protection clauses in the original operating agreement. Documentation of systematic exclusion from material decisions. Exhibit A. Evidence of attempted dilution without proper consent. Exhibit B. Demand for immediate board seat or mandatory independent audit. Notice that Series A cannot close without explicit written approval from 40% equity holder Thomas Mitchell. Legal action if terms not met within 10 business days. At the bottom, Robert's signature, law firm letterhead, legal consequence. Brian's eyes found mine across the room, through the confetti, through the champagne toasts, through 5 years of distance. I didn't look away. He pushed through the crowd. Jessica grabbed his arm phone to her ear, already calling someone. Marcus Smith was walking toward the exit. Sarah Jenkins close behind. The VCs weren't staying for a party where the deal had just collapsed. Brian reached me. His face was white. "Dad? What did you do?" "What you should have done," I said. "Kept your word." "Dad, wait. We can fix this. We can talk." I walked toward the elevator. He followed. "You had 5 years to talk to me, Brian. You gave me a badge instead." "It was a joke?" "Dad, it wasn't a joke." I pressed the elevator button. None of it was. The doors opened. I stepped inside. "Dad, please." His voice cracked. "Don't destroy everything I built." I looked at him, at my son, at the man who'd taken everything I gave him, and decided it wasn't enough to remember where it came from. "I didn't destroy anything," I said. "I just stopped letting you pretend you built it alone." The doors closed. I walked out into the San Francisco night. Cold air hit my face. Behind me, through the glass walls, I could see the party collapsing. Jessica's voice rising sharp and panicked. VCs heading for exits. Employees confused, wondering what happened to the celebration. The Series A was dead. The company couldn't raise money without my approval, and I wasn't giving it. I walked to my car, got in, sat there with my hands on the wheel. 5 years of being erased. 5 years of watching my son forget who'd made his dream possible. I started the engine. For the first time in 5 years, I felt nothing but the cold air and the lightness of finally letting go. The lawyer calls came within 24 hours. I didn't answer any of them. New Year's Day. My phone sat on the Murphy bed screen, lighting up every few minutes. 47 missed calls by noon. Brian 23 times. Jessica 12. The company attorney 8. Unknown numbers 4. I made coffee. Watched the fog roll across Oakland through my window. Ignored every buzz. Then I called Emily. "Dad?" She picked up on the first ring. "Are you okay?" I did it. "Good." Her voice was firm, proud. "Now come home. Come to Seattle. Stay with us." "I will." "I mean it, Dad. Not a visit. Come home for real." I looked around the studio. 400 square feet that had never felt like home. "Okay." January 3rd. I met Robert Williams at his office. He was smiling when I walked in. "The VCs pulled out," he said. "All 3 firms. Without their backing, Tech Fund can't close the Series A. The company's in limbo until they resolve your position." "What are they trying to do?" "Jessica's pushing for litigation. Wants to challenge the founder agreement. But Brian's caught in the middle. He called my office yesterday, asked if there was a way to work this out." Williams shook his head. "I told him it's too late for negotiation." "And the company?" "Dead in the water, without capital." "Maybe 6 months of runway left?" I nodded. Felt nothing. January 6th. Robert called with an offer. A competitor. One of the companies Tech Fund had been competing with wanted to buy my 40% stake. 1.7 million. "They want the technology," Williams explained. "The team is secondary." "Tell them 2 million, I said, "and they keep the good engineers. Not Brian, not Jessica." "Tom, 2 million, or I hold my shares and watch the company die." Williams was quiet. "Then I'll make the call." The competitor agreed within an hour. January 8th. The deal closed. $2 million wired to my account, plus the $280,000 that had been sitting in my separate retirement account all along. $2.28 million total. I'd given them $850,000. 4 years later, I was walking away with nearly triple that, but it wasn't about the money. My phone buzzed. A text from Brian. "Dad, please, can we talk?" I typed a response. "You had 5 years." Stared at it. Deleted it. Blocked his number instead. Some conversations were already over. I stood in my empty studio. Boxes stacked by the door. Everything I owned fitting into my car. On the counter sat one last item, the Observer badge from New Year's Eve. I'd kept it. Wasn't sure why at first. Now I knew. It was evidence. Not of what they'd done to me, but of what I'd refused to accept. I left it there on the counter. Let the next tenant wonder what it meant. Beside it, Susan's photo. The one I'd carried from Portland to Oakland, to everywhere I'd landed after she died. I picked it up, looked at her smile. I think you'd be proud, I said to the empty room. I finally chose myself. The drive to Seattle took 12 hours. I left before dawn, drove north through California, into Oregon, into Washington. Emily called twice to check on me. Dad, the guest room's ready, but honestly, I'm thinking you stay longer. Like permanently longer. I looked at the road ahead, at the miles between my old life and whatever came next. Yeah, I said, I think I will. For the first time in 5 years, I smiled. This New Year's Eve, I have a seat at the table. Not because I paid for it, but because I earned it. Emily's kitchen in Ballard smells like roasted garlic and rosemary. Through the window, I can see Puget Sound dark water, scattered lights from Magnolia across the bay. Mark's at the cutting board with fresh thyme. Tom, more herbs, or is this good? He's actually asking, not being polite, actually wanting to know. A little more, I say. Crush it first. Releases the oils. He tries it, nods. Smart, thanks. A cooking question. Small. But after 5 years of being invisible in my own son's company, small things matter. Behind us, Emily's 3 kids are setting the table. Maya, 8 years old, keeps looking back at me like she's making sure I'm still here. Grandpa Tom, where do you want to sit? Anywhere's fine, sweetheart. No. Liam, 11, frowns like I've broken a rule. You have to pick. Everyone picks. I glance at Emily. She's smiling, hands in dough flour on her arms. Her eyebrow goes up. Well, next to you, Maya. Her whole face lights up. Perfect. I'll make your name card. Purple marker, crooked letters, my name. 68 years old, and it's the first time in 5 years someone asked where I wanted to sit. By 11:30, dinner's over. The table's covered in crumbs and empty glasses. Mark's neighbors brought their kids. The house is loud, warm, full. I step outside. Cold air, sharp. A ferry moves south across the sound lights, steady against the dark. You okay, Dad? Emily's next to me with 2 coffees. Doesn't ask if I want one. Just knows. Yeah, I'm good. Quiet for a minute. Then Brian called yesterday. I don't react. I've learned not to. He said Jessica's gone. Said he's trying to rebuild. Wants advice. I sip the coffee. Too hot. Don't care. What did you say? That you're busy. I almost laugh. Busy. You are? She nudges me. 3 startups in 6 months. Teaching founders how to protect their equity. You're actually busy. She's right. After I left, I rebuilt. Quietly. Young founders reach out the scared ones who don't understand term sheets. I help them. Make sure they don't end up in the back of their own company wearing an observer badge. I'm proud of you, Emily says. I look at her, my daughter, the one who stayed, who called, who made room for me. I know. At 11:59, we're inside. Kids on the couch counting down. Mark pours champagne. Someone hands me a glass. Crystal, not plastic. Maya tugs my sleeve. Grandpa make a wish at midnight. What are you wishing for? She grins. Can't tell. Won't come true. 10:09, 8. I look around. Emily laughing with Mark. The kids shouting. My purple name card on the table. 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year. Cheers. Hugs. Champagne spilling over. For the first time in 5 years, I don't think about what I lost. I think about what I chose. I chose myself, and found my way back to people who wanted me here. The bridges I burned in San Francisco ash. Gone. But here in this house that smells like rosemary and sounds like family, I'm building something better. Something that can't be taken away. Looking back at this true story, I see where I went wrong. For 5 years, I confused love with surrender. I thought being a good father meant giving everything and asking for nothing. Don't be like me. Don't wait until you're holding an observer badge before you speak up. God gave you a voice. For a reason, use it. This isn't just another grandpa stories about sacrifice. It's a warning. I spent $850,000 trying to buy respect. What I should have done was teach my son that respect is earned, not purchased. God doesn't measure our worth by what we give away. He measures it by how we honor the value He placed in us. The lesson family loyalty is a two-way street. Blood doesn't give anyone the right to erase you. God calls us to be wise, not to be doormats. This true story taught me that sometimes walking away is the most faithful thing you can do. So here are my grandpa stories turned into advice. Document everything. Know your worth. Set boundaries. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. If you've experienced something like this, drop a comment and share your true story. You're not alone. If this resonated, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe so you don't miss more grandpa stories like this. Sometimes we just need to remind each other you deserve a seat at the table. Not because you paid for it, but because you earned it. My son organized a New Year's Eve family party with 28 people, and I was treated like an outsider. No one greeted me. No one looked at me. While everyone else was celebrating the countdown to the new year, my daughter-in-law stood up, took down every photo with my face from the wall, tore apart my wedding photo with my late wife, threw everything into a trash can placed right next to my chair, called me a leech. I recorded every minute of it. This is not the end. This is just the beginning. Before I tell you what happened next on that New Year's Eve, drop a comment below and let me know where you're watching this from. I want to know how far this story reaches, because what happened to me could happen to anyone anywhere. My name is Chris Morgan. I'm 72 years old, and the night my life finally snapped in half started with a New Year's Eve family dinner I never asked for. My son Brandon called 3 days earlier, said it was time to bring the family together before the new year. 28 relatives, his house in Beaverton, Sunday, December 31st, 7 p.m. I should have known something was wrong when I walked in and no one looked at me. 28 people, cousins, aunts, uncles, in-laws, Brandon's co-workers, Amber's sister, Brittany, her friend Ashley, my grandson Justin standing in the corner staring at the floor. Not one person said hello. I stood in the doorway, rain dripping off my coat, and waited for someone to acknowledge I existed. Nothing. Brandon walked past me to the kitchen without a word. Amber smiled at someone across the room. Justin looked at me once, guilt written all over his face, then looked away. I sat down at the table, the only empty chair, right next to a metal trash can. That should have been my second clue. Dinner was pot roast, mashed potatoes, the kind of meal Dorothy used to make on New Year's Eve before she died. I wondered if Amber had done that on purpose. Wondered if she knew it would hurt. No one spoke to me. Conversations happened around me, over me, through me, like I was a piece of furniture, like I wasn't even there. Then Amber stood up. She walked to the wall where Brandon had hung a dozen framed photos, family pictures, vacations, holidays, graduations. She pulled down the first one, a photo of me and Justin at his 10th birthday party. She looked at it. Then she dropped it into the trash can next to my chair. The sound of glass cracking. She pulled down another. Me and Dorothy at the coast. Into the trash. Another. Me and Brandon when he was 7. Into the trash. One by one, she pulled down every photo with my face in it and threw them away, while 28 people watched in silence. Then she picked up the last one. Our wedding photo. Me and Dorothy. 50 years ago. The day I promised to love her for the rest of my life. Amber held it up, looked straight at me, and tore it in half. She dropped both pieces into the trash can. Then she turned to the room and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Chris is not family anymore. He's a burden, a leech. And he owes us $38,400 for every meal every night, under our roof every second we've wasted keeping him alive." I sat there, rain-soaked, silent, watching my son stand in the doorway doing nothing. Justin looked like he wanted to cry. No one else moved. Amber smiled. "You're not family, Chris. You're a debt." I stood up, slowly, my legs shaking, and I walked out the front door into the New Year's Eve rain without my coat. 28 people watched me leave. Not one person followed. I stood on the driveway, rain soaking through my shirt, and I realized something I'd been trying not to see for 3 months. This wasn't just about money. This was about erasing me. They'd been drugging me, isolating me, stealing from me, and tonight was supposed to be the final humiliation, the moment I gave up. But here's what they didn't know: I'd been recording everything. The camera hidden in my coat pocket had just captured every second of what they did, and this wasn't the end. This was just the beginning. The room they'd given me used to be storage. Narrow window, neighbor's fence outside. I locked the door and stood there listening. The house was quiet. Brandon and Amber were downstairs, voices murmuring, probably congratulating themselves. I pulled the camera from my jacket and sat on the bed. My hands weren't shaking. 3 months of practice will do that. I opened my laptop, the old one I'd told them didn't work, plugged in the camera, watched the footage download, Amber tearing pictures, her voice saying I owed them money. Brandon sitting like a stone. I copied the files 3 times. Laptop, SD card taped under the desk drawer. Cloud storage, Eugene's account, not mine. They'd been checking mine for months. 4 months ago I started feeling wrong, not tired, something else. Mornings felt like fog. I'd forget conversations from the day before. Amber would ask if I'd taken my pills, and I'd stare because I didn't remember what pills. "It's your age, Dad," Brandon said. "You should rest. We'll take care of things." So I rested. The fog got thicker. Then one morning I woke early, came down before anyone else. Amber had already poured my orange juice, set it on the counter like she did every morning. I poured it down the sink, made coffee instead. By noon my head felt clearer, clearer than it had in weeks. I tested it the next day, drank the juice. 30 minutes later, couldn't keep my eyes open. By evening, couldn't remember lunch. Day after that, I skipped it, clear as a bell. That's when I knew. I'm a retired electrician. 40 years running wire through walls installing security systems. I called Eugene, asked him to order 2 nanny cams, shipped them to his house. He didn't ask questions. I installed the first one in my bedroom, inside a photo frame on the shelf. The second in the kitchen, hidden in a broken wall clock. Brandon kept meaning to throw it out. Never did. Then I made a choice. I kept drinking the juice. Not all of it. I'd pour half down the sink when nobody was looking, but enough to keep up the act, and I pretended. Asked Amber the same question twice. Forgot what day it was. Shuffled when I walked. Squinted at the TV. For 3 months I played the part, because I needed them to feel safe. Needed them to keep talking. Needed footage. Now I had 90 days of it. Brandon crushing pills into my juice. Amber and Brandon talking late at night about getting power of attorney signed before I got suspicious. Amber hiding my mail. Brandon saying, "We need to make him easier to manage." Amber speed things up. He's not going to last forever. I watched it all, frame by frame. Every lie, every smile, every time they called me Dad while they poisoned me. There was a knock at the door, soft, hesitant. I minimized the window and stood. When I opened the door, Justin was there, 15 years old, holding an old flip phone like contraband. "Grandpa," he whispered, "you need to call Aunt Michelle, please, before they—" He stopped. His eyes shifted past me to the laptop. The screen I hadn't closed all the way. Paused footage. His father's hand, a pill bottle. Justin's face went white. "You knew?" he breathed. "This whole time?" I nodded. "How long?" 3 months. "And you just let them?" "I needed proof," I said. I needed them to think they were getting away with it, so they'd keep doing it, so I could show everyone exactly who they are. His hand tightened around the phone. I wanted to tell someone. I didn't know how it does. "You're here now," I said, "and I need your help. I need to make sure everyone else knows too. My name is Chris Morgan. I'm 72 years old. And the afternoon I stopped being alone started with a 15-year-old kid handing me a $20 flip phone. Justin stood in my doorway holding it like contraband. "Cash," he said. "No one knows." I took it. "Why are you helping me?" He looked at the pause footage on my laptop, Amber tearing the wedding photo. "Because they're wrong, and because you're my grandpa." I showed him one clip. Brandon crushing pills into orange juice. I didn't show him the rest. He was 15. His face went pale, but his jaw tightened. "I have recordings too," he said. "On my phone. 6 months. I didn't know what to do with them." He paused. "But now I do." I didn't ask why. Kids see what adults think they hide. "Go downstairs in 10 minutes, I said. "Ask your mom for help with your science project. Make it loud. I'm walking out the front door." He nodded. "Justin," I said, "thank you." He left. I made it to Laurelhurst Park in 12 minutes, 10 blocks west. My legs hurt, but the air was cold and clean, and I could finally breathe. I sat on a bench and dialed Michelle. She answered on the second ring. "Dad!" Her voice cracked. I hadn't spoken to her in 2 months. Brandon had blocked her number, told her I was confused. "Michelle, I need you to listen." I told her everything, the dinner, the photos, the drugging, the cameras. Long silence. "I'm booking a flight right now," she finally said. "Don't tell Brandon. I'll be there tonight. There's someone I want you to meet first." Eugene Martinez lived 1 mile east. We'd worked together for 30 years. He was the one who'd helped me buy the nanny cam, set up the cloud account, so Brandon couldn't trace it. When I knocked, he opened the door, saw my face, and pulled me inside. I told him. He listened. Then he picked up his phone and called Philip Hartman, an elder law attorney, former FBI. 9 a.m. tomorrow, Eugene said. Downtown? One more favor. Michelle lands at 8 tonight, PDX. Already on it. Michelle arrived just after 9. She walked through Eugene's door, saw me at the kitchen table, and burst into tears. She wrapped her arms around me. I'm here. We're going to fix this. I held her for a long time. My daughter, the one who'd never stopped trying. Before we see the attorney. I said, I need to find something, your mother's journal. She tried to warn me about Amber 3 years ago. I didn't listen, but I think she wrote it down. Michelle pulled back. Where? Storage boxes. Brandon's garage. Eugene looked at me. You want to go back? Tonight? Midnight. We pulled up just after midnight. Lights, dark. Michelle stayed in the car engine running. I slipped around back through the gate I'd installed 40 years ago. The lock was one I'd put in myself. I still had the key. Inside, silent. I moved past the trash can where Amber had thrown my photos and into the garage. Storage boxes stacked in the corner. I found the one labeled Dorothy Personal. Inside photo albums, letters, a wooden box, and at the bottom a journal with my wife's handwriting. For Chris, in case I'm wrong, in case I'm right. I tucked it under my coat and slipped out. We were back at Eugene's by 12:30. The journal sat on the table. Do you want to read it now? Michelle asked. I shook my head. Tomorrow, with the attorney. I want him to see everything. But as I sat there in Eugene's kitchen, surrounded by people who actually cared whether I lived or died, I realized something. For the first time in 3 months, I wasn't pretending. And for the first time in 90 days, I wasn't alone. The journal was spiral-bound, cloth-covered, small enough to fit in my coat pocket. Dorothy's handwriting inside, careful, deliberate, the way she used to write grocery lists and birthday cards. 1 in the morning, Eugene's kitchen. Michelle sat across from me. Eugene made coffee. Neither of us would drink. I opened to the page marked with a slip of paper. Chris, if I'm gone, please read this. December 15th, 6 months before Dorothy died. I'm worried about Amber. She keeps asking about life insurance. How much do we have? Who's the beneficiary? Yesterday I caught her going through your desk. She said she was looking for stamps. I tried to tell you last week. You said I was imagining things. Maybe I am. The heart medication makes me tired. I second-guess everything now. But Chris, something feels wrong. I wish I had proof. I wish I was sure enough to fight for you. If Amber or Brandon ever make you feel confused, controlled, trust that feeling. I pray I'm wrong. But if I'm right, please be careful. I love you. My hands were shaking. She tried to warn me. I said. I didn't listen. Michelle was crying. Mom knew. I set the journal down and picked up the envelope that had been tucked inside the box. White, business-sized, unopened. I tore it open. Inside, a life insurance policy. Insured Christopher Morgan. Death benefit $250,000. Beneficiary, Amber Palmer, Morgan. Issue date, 14 months ago. Signature mine. Except I'd never signed it. The signature looked close, same slant, same loops, but the pressure was wrong. Too light, too careful. I never signed this, I said. I didn't even know it existed. Eugene leaned over my shoulder and read the premium payment section. Automatic withdrawal, he said quietly. From your Social Security account. $187 a month. For 14 months. Michelle's face went white. They used your money to buy insurance on your life. So when you die, she gets $250,000. Eugene sat down heavily. The drugging, the confusion, the isolation. He looked at me. They weren't just trying to control you. They were setting the stage. For what? Michelle asked. Incompetence hearing. Guardianship. Get him declared mentally unfit. Move him into a facility where no one's watching. Eugene paused. Or worse. I thought about the pills crushed into orange juice. The way Brandon had started talking about nursing homes. The way Amber had smiled when she said I was a burden. 250,000 reasons I was worth more dead than alive. Michelle stood up. We're calling the police. Right now. No, I said. They both stared at me. We're calling the attorney first. Philip Hartman, 9 a.m. We do this right. We build the case. Then we call the police. Eugene nodded. Smart. I've been pretending to be confused for 3 months, I said. I can pretend for 6 more hours. At 7 a.m., we walked into Philip Hartman's office. Downtown Portland, 4th floor, rain-streaked windows. Hartman was 60 gray-haired with the kind of calm that comes from 30 years investigating financial criminals for the FBI. I set 3 things on his desk. The SD cards, 90 days of footage, Dorothy's journal, the life insurance policy I'd never signed. Hartman spent 20 minutes reviewing everything. He watched clips of Brandon crushing pills. He read Dorothy's warnings. He examined the forged signature under a magnifying glass. Then he looked at me. Mr. Morgan, he said quietly, this isn't just elder abuse. This is conspiracy to commit fraud, guardianship fraud, identity theft, and based on the drugging and the life insurance conspiracy to commit murder. The room went silent. Michelle's hand found mine. We need to call the police, Hartman said. Right now. He picked up the phone. And for the first time in 3 months, I felt something I hadn't felt since the night Dorothy died. Hope. Detective Sarah Martinez watched the footage in silence. 90 days compressed into 40 minutes. Amber tearing photos. Brandon crushing pills into orange juice. The dinner where 28 people watched me get erased. When it ended, she looked at me. Mr. Morgan, I need you to go to the hospital. Toxicology screen. We need proof of what they put in your system. 3 hours later, the results came back. Benzodiazepines. In my blood, my urine, my hair follicles. I'd never had a prescription. This is felony elder abuse, Detective Martinez said. We're opening a criminal investigation. That same afternoon, investigator Rebecca Ellis from Pacific Northwest Community Credit Union pulled Amber's employment records. Client complaints, irregularities with elderly accounts, small discrepancies that had been flagged but never followed up on. Attorney Hartman filed identity theft reports with the FTC and froze every account in my name. The walls were closing in, and then on day 4, Amber struck back. Michelle's phone rang at 10 in the morning, a woman's voice calm and professional. This is Adult Protective Services. We received a report that Christopher Morgan is being exploited by his daughter. Michelle went pale. The caller continued. The report states that Mr. Morgan has dementia, that his daughter removed him from his son's care without consent, and that she's attempting to control his finances. Who filed the report? Michelle asked. Amber Morgan. His daughter-in-law? Michelle's hands were shaking when she hung up. She's accusing me, she said. She's trying to make it look like I'm the one abusing you. I wasn't surprised. Predators always attack when cornered. Let them come, I said. I have nothing to hide. Social worker Janet Rodriguez arrived the next morning. Mid-40s, calm, thorough. She asked Michelle to step outside while she interviewed me alone. Standard protocol. I showed her everything. The footage, the toxicology report, Dorothy's journal, the forged life insurance policy. She watched Brandon crush the pills with her own eyes. Then she gave me a cognitive test. Mini mental state exam. 30 questions. I scored 30 out of 30. She closed her notebook. Mr. Morgan, your daughter-in-law's report shows classic Darvo tactics. Deny attack, reverse victim, and offender. The abuser accuses the victim of the very abuse they're committing. She stood. I'm closing the investigation into Michelle, and I'm opening an investigation into Amber and Brandon. That afternoon, Rebecca Ellis called with worse news. I found 2 more victims, she said. Mrs. Margaret Sullivan and Mr. Harold Peterson, both from the senior center. Same pattern. Unexplained loans, confusion, Amber, helping with their finances. She paused. 3 elderly victims, approximately $340,000 stolen. Mr. Morgan, this isn't isolated. This is predatory. I sat down slowly. 3 people, 3 families, 3 lives stripped bare, and Amber had done it all with a smile and a loan application. That night, Brandon called Eugene's number. I don't know how he found it. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. His voice was shaking. Dad, please. We need to talk. Amber's saying things, planning things I didn't know about. There's a life insurance policy I swear I didn't know. She said it was to protect you. Dad, please call me back. I think I'm in too deep. I listened twice. Then I saved it. Because even if my son was drowning, he'd chosen to swim in that water. And I wasn't a lifeguard anymore. 2 weeks after the dinner, 10 days into the official investigation, Justin sent Michelle a message on social media. I need to see Grandpa. I have something he needs. Michelle arranged a meeting at a coffee shop downtown. Public. Safe. Justin walked in carrying his backpack like it weighed 50 pounds. His eyes were red. Justin, I said, are you okay? No, he said quietly. I haven't been okay for a long time. He pulled out his phone. I've been recording them, he said, for 6 months. I knew something was wrong. The way they smiled when you got confused. He opened a folder labeled Dad and Mom Private, 43 audio files. I didn't know what to do with them, he said, but now I do. He played the first one. Recording 1. 3 months ago. Amber's voice sharp. Is he confused enough yet? Brandon quieter. I don't know. He's still asking questions. Give him more. Double the dose if you have to. What if he gets really sick? Then we get power of attorney faster. Either way, we win. Michelle's hand covered her mouth. Justin played the second recording. Recording 2. 6 weeks ago. Amber again. The life insurance premium cleared. Brandon hesitated. Do you really think that was necessary? He's 72. How much longer? 5 years. 10. That's $250,000 we're waiting on, unless we speed things up. Speed things up how? Memory care unit, nursing home. Once he's declared incompetent, he goes in. Those places, people don't last long. My chest tightened. They'd been planning to warehouse me. Justin was crying. I should have said something sooner. I was scared. I reached across the table and took his hand. You're saying something now, I said. That's what matters. He played the third recording. Recording 3. Recent, after the APS investigation, Amber and Brandon screaming, You're pathetic. This was your idea. You're the one who said we should help him financially. You suggested the drugs, because you said we needed the money. We both benefited. That car's in your name. If we go down, I'm saying it was your plan. I'll say you drugged him. Who will they believe, a bank employee or a failed real estate agent? Attorney Hartman listened to all 3 recordings. This proves conspiracy, intent, that both of them knew exactly what they were doing. This is admissible in court. I looked at my grandson. Justin, I said carefully, if this goes to trial, you might have to testify against your parents. Are you ready for that? He didn't hesitate. They stopped being my parents when they did this. Yes, I'll testify. Michelle leaned forward. You can live with me, Justin. When this is over. His eyes filled with tears. Really? Really? We're family. Family protects each other. Hartman gathered everything. My camera footage, Justin's recordings, the toxicology report, Dorothy's journal, the forged insurance policy, statements from Amber's other victims. He put it all in a 3-inch binder and drove to the district attorney's office. 2 hours later, he called. Mr. Morgan, he said, the DA is filing criminal charges, multiple felonies for both of them. They'll be arrested within 48 hours. I exhaled. Finally. But there's something you should know, Hartman continued. We just got word from the credit union. Amber withdrew $50,000 in cash yesterday, and this morning she didn't show up for work. My blood went cold. Mr. Morgan, I think she's running, and we need to find her before she disappears. 48 hours after the DA filed charges on a cold Wednesday morning in January, the countdown ended. At 6 a.m., police knocked on Brandon's door. He answered in his pajamas, eyes hollow. Brandon Morgan, you're under arrest for elder abuse, drugging identity theft fraud, conspiracy forgery, and financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. 8 felonies. They cuffed him on his front porch while neighbors watched. Ashley Bennett filmed it. The video spread across local social media within the hour. Inside, police searched for Amber. Her clothes were gone, passport missing, drawers open. She'd been planning this. Detective Martinez made calls. Bank records showed the $50,000 withdrawal. Airline records showed a ticket under her maiden name, Amber Palmer. Destination, Mexico City. Flight 11:30 a.m. Current time, 8 a.m. Race to the airport. At 9 a.m. Eugene was at the senior center near Portland International for his weekly chess game. He walked past the terminal gates, and there she was, Amber wearing sunglasses and a black jacket standing near TSA. Nervous. Eugene called Attorney Hartman. She's here. PDX, Concourse C. Hartman called police. By 10:30, police and airport security coordinated. Amber stood at Gate C7. Boarding had just been called. 2 officers approached. Amber Palmer. Morgan, she froze, then ran. Airport security blocked the jetway. She was cornered. Ma'am, we have a warrant for your arrest. I don't know what you're talking about. She tried to push past. They restrained her, cuffed her. Every passenger watched. Some filmed. Amber screamed. This is a mistake. My father-in-law has dementia. The officer was calm. You have the right to remain silent. I suggest you use it. They searched her carry-on. $50,000 in cash vacuum sealed. A fake passport. Amy Palmer. Additional charges flight to avoid prosecution falsified documents. Local news ran the story that night. Bank employee arrested fleeing country after drugging elderly father-in-law. I watched at Eugene's house. Michelle sat beside me. Dad, how do you feel? Tired, and sad, and free. 1 week later, attorneys negotiated plea deals. Brandon testified against Amber for a reduced sentence. Amber accepted a harsher deal to avoid trial. 6 weeks later, we stood in court for sentencing. Brandon first. 3 years in prison, 5 years probation, full restitution, permanent revocation of real estate license, permanent restraining order. The judge looked at him. You drugged your own father. You will carry that for the rest of your life. Brandon stared at the floor. Then Amber. 8 years in prison, 7 years probation, $180,000 in restitution, permanent ban from the financial industry, $75,000 fine. The judge leaned forward. Ms. Morgan, you preyed on a vulnerable elderly man. You drugged him, tried to erase him, then tried to flee. You will serve every day of this sentence. They led Amber out in handcuffs. She turned and looked at me one last time. Not regret. Pure rage. I looked straight into her eyes until she was gone. Then I walked out into the Portland rain with Michelle and Eugene. I'd spent 3 months pretending to be confused to gather evidence. But I'd spent 3 years actually confused about why my son became a stranger, why my daughter-in-law looked at me like a bank account, why I felt so alone after Dorothy died. Now finally, I wasn't confused anymore. I knew exactly who I was, and I knew exactly who they'd always been. 3 months after sentencing, as the spring flowers began to bloom in Portland, I was rebuilding. The restitution came through, $180,000. After legal fees, $155,000. Combined with my remaining savings and sale proceeds, my total assets were around $337,000. My credit was restored, the fraud markers removed. I existed again. Michelle filed for custody of Justin. He was 15, almost 16, old enough to choose. Brandon was in prison. Amber's parental rights were challenged. The judge granted Michelle full custody. Justin moved to Portland just in time for the new school semester. New school, weekly therapy, and every Sunday dinner at Michelle's. At the first dinner, Justin tried to apologize again. I stopped him. You did the right thing when it mattered most. That's all that counts. We ate lasagna, Dorothy's recipe from the journal. I moved into Rose Garden Senior living in Hillsborough. Not a nursing home. Independent living. My own apartment. 1 bedroom. Small kitchen bathroom. 15 minutes from Michelle. Eugene helped me move in. You could live with Michelle, he said. I need independence, I said. That's what they tried to take. I'm taking it back. That first night alone, I looked at Dorothy's photo I'd rescued from the trash. I did it, I whispered. I fought. I won. I went back to the Multnomah County Senior Center. My friends welcomed me. I told them what happened, not all of it. Enough. 5 people pulled me aside. I think my family might be doing something similar. I gave them Attorney Hartman's number. 2 weeks later, social worker Janet Rodriguez invited me to speak at a training session. 30 seniors attended. I taught warning signs, how to check credit reports, how to ask for help. A woman raised her hand. How do I check my credit report? I walked her through it, step by step. 5 more people approached me afterward. I gave them my phone number. Sunday dinners became tradition. At Michelle's, Chris Michelle, Justin Eugene, and rotating guests. At the first official dinner, Eugene raised his glass. To Chris, who taught us what real strength looks like. Justin raised his. To Grandpa, who never gave up. Michelle smiled. To family? Not the family we're born into. The family we choose. I looked around the table. This was what family felt like. A week later, a letter arrived. Prison mail. Brandon's handwriting. I stared at it. My hands shook. Michelle saw. Do you want to open it? I don't know. Maybe someday, she said. Or maybe never. That's your choice, Dad. And that's the whole point now. It's your choice. I put the letter in a drawer, unopened, because she was right. For the first time in years, everything was my choice. Where I lived, who I saw, what I did with my time. And I chose this helping other seniors spending time with people who loved me and living every day the way Dorothy would have wanted. Brandon could wait, or he could write 100 letters. Either way, I was done letting him control my life. 1 year after the New Year's Eve dinner that changed everything, I stood in front of 30 seniors at the Multnomah County Senior Center and told them how to fight back. Check your credit reports, I said, 3 times a year. Free. Look for accounts you didn't open. A woman raised her hand. What if my son says he's just helping, then asks to see the paperwork? I said. If he's really helping, he'll show you. This was my life now. Eugene and I co-founded the Elder Justice Coalition. We started with 5 people. Now we had 22. A local news station ran a story about me. They asked why I did it. If my story saves one person, then telling it is worth it. Adult Protective Services asked me to help train new caseworkers. I said yes. Justin came with me every Saturday. He was 16 now. Thriving, he taught digital safety for seniors. Mrs. Margaret Sullivan thanked him last week. I caught my son trying to access my account because of what you taught me. Sometimes Justin asked, do you ever think about Dad? I told him the truth. I think about the boy he used to be, before greed changed him. In December, I finally opened Brandon's letter. I sat alone on a bench overlooking the Willamette River and read it. Dad, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I didn't recognize the man I became. None of it excuses what I did. I chose money over you. I'm just writing to say I'm sorry. Justin seems happy with Michelle and you. That's how I know I failed as a father. I folded the letter and stared at the river. Forgiveness. Not now. Maybe never. Maybe someday. But I didn't hate him anymore. That New Year's Eve, exactly 1 year after the dinner, we held an anniversary celebration at Michelle's. Celebrating freedom. Michelle raised her glass. To Dad, who walked out of that dinner and survived. Eugene raised his. To Chris, who showed us strength, has no expiration date. Justin raised his. To Grandpa, who taught me integrity. Janet smiled. To Chris, who changed how we train workers. I stood emotional. I thought I'd lost everything, but I found all of you. After dinner, I stepped outside. Raining. Michelle joined me. I was thinking about Mom, I said. She tried to warn me. She also taught me to trust myself. That's what saved me. She'd be so proud. I paused. I read Brandon's letter last month. And I'm not ready to respond. Maybe never. And I'm okay with that. I don't owe him forgiveness. I owe myself peace. And I finally have it. Brandon was in his 2nd year of prison. Amber in her 1st of 8. The lessons I taught now. You are not a burden. It is never too late to fight back. Real love wants your independence, not control. Family isn't always blood. Speaking up is strength. Turning on the lights is freedom. My name is Chris Morgan. I'm 73 years old. Retired electrician, widower, grandfather, friend, advocate. Still here, still fighting, still free. Looking back at my family story, I want to share what I've learned through this family betrayal. Don't be like I was ignoring the warning signs because you're afraid of conflict. Don't ignore your gut when something feels wrong. Don't let shame keep you silent. I almost lost everything because I wanted to believe the best in people who'd stopped seeing me as a person. Here's what this family story taught me. Trust isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when you're at your weakest. When I had nothing left, God put Eugene in my path. When I felt most alone, God gave me the courage to install those cameras. When I wanted to give up, God sent Justin with those recordings. The biggest lesson from my family betrayal: you are never too old, too tired, or too broken to fight back. Your life has value. Your voice matters. And asking for help isn't weakness, it's wisdom. God didn't save me from the storm, He walked me through it. And on the other side, I found a family I chose, not one I was born into. If my family story resonates with you, if you've experienced family betrayal, or know someone who has, please leave a comment below. Share this story. Subscribe to the channel so we can keep shining light into dark places together. Your story matters, your survival matters, and you are not alone.